January the 23rd, 4 p.m. The Economic Development Authority will call to order at this time, and you may wonder why I'm doing this. We got to pick our officers for the year, and so I'll start us all doing that. First of all, we'll establish the presence of a quorum, and I'll call your name out and for establishment of that quorum. Kenneth Belton. I'm here. Gary Rasco. Here. Jason Baumgartner. Here. Elizabeth Ash.
Here.
Betsy Sherry. Young. Here. Roger Rose. Here. Tracy Cornett from staff. So thanks, everybody. Hey, and without further ado, we will elect our officers. I will chair the meeting until we elect a chairman. And once we've done that, I'll turn the gavel over to the chairman. Okay, so is there any nominations for EDA chair?
I nominate Kent Belton.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion been made and seconded for Kenneth Belton to be the chair of the Economic Development Authority for Grayson County. Are there further nominations? Okay, we have one nomination for the chair, and not hearing any other nominations, we will vote on Kenneth Belton as an EDA chair, and we'll go around the room and let each member, rather than just voting on yea or nay, we'll go around and let each one vote. Gary.
Yeah.
Kenneth.
Same.
Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Betsy. Darren's non-voting member. Roger.
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, here's the gavel. Take the meeting over. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm gonna break it down. All right, we will go to the EDA vice chair. I hear a motion for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Jason.
Jason Baumgartner, vice chair.
I'll second it.
Second. Any other nomination? That being quiet, we'll go to a vote for vice chair, Jason. So that, yeah, you gonna do the vote like,
Yeah, I would.
oh, you can do that? Or you need-
No, I would vote.
Yeah.
Let each member vote.
Yeah.
Yea or nay.
Right.
Abstain.
Yes.
I don't vote that thumbs up.
Right, okay. Everyone says yay, so congratulations, Mr. Jason. All right, now appointment of clerk and deputy clerk. And that, we need a nomination for both at once.
You can if you want to. That normally that would be Steve and myself. Steve Boyer is the clerk, and me as the deputy clerk.
Do we have to vote on that? Or is it-
Yeah, you have to vote on it, but you can vote on them together unless there's a problem with either vote separate, you can, or if you want to vote on them together, you can do that too. Motion, second, and a vote.
I make a motion, we vote on Mitch and Steve to be our deputy clerk or clerk.
Second.
Motion second. Roll call.
Aye.
Sure.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And just for the record, you will vote on Steve to be the clerk and me to be the deputy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, next, approval of minutes. If everybody has had a chance to look through the minutes, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes from last November's meeting.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
No, so, okay, minutes approved. Financial report, same way. Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out one. Nikki got us the financial report. The only thing that I see on it, and I have made mention of that to her, but we didn't get it corrected on this one. So if y'all want to approve it with correction, I think you'll agree with the correction. In the minutes that you just approved, you will see where that Mr. Kennedy made the motion to put $200,000 of Grayson County Ag Disaster Fund in the recovery fund, duly seconded by Ms. Ash, and it was voted on 6-0. That is not reflected. I think what we should vote on is to encumber $200,000 based on your all's minutes on what you all did last meeting. You won't see that in the encumbered amount, but I think you should, based on that meeting minutes, you should encumber $200,000 because you all have voted to do that. And then your balance will be reflected accordingly. That's all the comment I have, Mr. Chairman.
That being said, the motion to approve the financial report encumbering $200,000 that we voted on last.
In the last, November meeting.
So moved.
Your second.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye? Aye. Okay, now, as far as old business, I want to, amend the agenda to include in old business, the Independence Health Department and this prior, not calling it again, so they're called.
Prior to clinic.
And Mr. Worth is not here. Mitch, you wanna go over what we've already voted on there?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll remember his request for opening clinic and pharmacy in the old Hugh Chatham building down here, and he was asking for $130,000 for startup and funds, and also asking the EDA for part of those funding. We'll skip down to where Mr. Belton made the motion for a grant of $65,000 to go to the Tri-Area Community Health for the Express Care Clinic at the Hugh Chatham building, and $65,000 loan for 65 months with a term as written with 1 month for each 1,065 months. With a 3% fixed rate interest with payments and interest to begin the first month after the site receives approval from CMS with no repayment penalty. And that was voted on and carried 6-0. Now, since that time, Steve Boyer has been working with Steve Durbin on an agreement, setting it up for the EDA. One question, I have 2 things before the EDA today, Mr. Chairman, that we need to set. Do you all want to have an equipment collateral clause in there, just in case, for safety? And if you do, how much? And then once you all decide that, you do or you don't, and then if you'll give authority to the chairman or the clerk or deputy clerk, whoever, to sign that agreement. That is the only clarification that's needed. The agreement is being looked at. I'm sure Steve Boyer will look at it when we get done. Somebody will be looking at it, making sure it's reviewed like we need. But that one clause in there as far as equipment collateral, do you all or don't you want to add that, and how much for that? And then give an authorization to the clerk or the chairman or whoever to sign the agreement so that once we get this done in the next few days, we can go on and get things done and not wait till the February meeting to have to come back and settle, do all this to get it moving. Because I understand, the sooner we can get on with this, the better for all parties. Any questions?
Is the clause going to be a blanket clause, like basically all equipment? Could you kind of have a blanket clause where you can have specifics on listing out piece A, B, C, and D? I'd say probably in this case, it probably needs to be a blanket clause. It's all equipment housed within the building or in the structure at the location.
I would recommend a blanket clause because do we know ABC?
We don't
To be
know
able
ABCD.
To be able to open that, to do that clause
Yeah. so-
today, we don't know
We don't.
ABC, so a blanket clause of just getting some safety cover. It's not like this is our first rodeo with this Tri-Area Health. They're in Freeze, they're in Grant. They're in our school systems, in the area, Galax and Carroll and working to do something with Grayson and also, it's not like we're dealing with somebody we don't know. But if you did, I'd recommend a blanket clause, just for safety. If that makes you all feel better, do that. And then,
Yeah, we did first time, I think, didn't we have,
We took the X-ray machine that has, it may have the blanket clause in it with that too, but,
I think it was specific to
Yeah.
that X-ray machine at the Freeze Clinic.
yeah, so this, a blanket clause would protect us some. If somebody has an intervening lien on a specific piece, they would probably, if it went to court or whatever, dispersal, they'd probably get paid first, but it wouldn't be bad to have.
I started to say, it'd probably be, they'd be first and we'd be second.
Yeah.
In line.
We would,
But somewhere or another, if you did a blanket, we're gonna probably be first.
we'll be first on something.
Yeah.
It'd be a good thing.
So we need to decide an amount. So we're gonna be lending them 65,000. So does it make sense to do that amount?
I think so. And your cost for 65,000.
That's completely up to this EDA, but
Makes sense.
They're pretty much starting from scratch, right? Rebuild, remodel, whatever down there at the building. I know the building is there, but.
Yeah.
They've got to do all.
They would be putting in all new equipment.
yeah, new equipment. They'll be doing a remodel and adding a pharmacy eventually and whatever, but yeah, new equipment. They're gonna spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, is that a consensus or any other discussion?
Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, you'll need to vote on the amount that you want for the blanket clause. And then also give in that you can, in that same motion, vote to give the chairman or clerk authority to get this into the agreement, the way y'all stated in this motion, and then sign it and move on.
So
We're all behind.
we need to choose whether it's gonna be Kenneth or Steve. Or it can be
All three.
It can be whoever you all want. Yeah.
It can be either. So I'll make a motion that we file a blanket lien for $65,000 against the furniture, equipment, and assets. This building for Tri-Area Community Health. And that
As collateral.
as collateral for the loan. And the chairman, clerk, or deputy clerk can sign it on behalf of the EDA. Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye. Also, aye. Any opposed?
Thank y'all for cleaning that up for us.
One thing too, and I don't think we need to go back and amend this, since we have committed that 130,000 out, we probably need to, I don't know if we need to list that as encumbered on that. I don't know if we can go back and change that now, but we all need to just keep that in the back of our minds for the next. We committed 200 to the farmers and 130 to tribes.
Yeah, it should be reflected in here.
Nikki gets back with you, we'll about everyone's moving, correct?
Should be. And, yeah, and I think Linda's making a note of that. And the next financial report, you all would like to see that reflected in income. We can make that happen.
Moving on, new business. So there is no new business, correct?
None that I know of.
Okay. All right, moving on to informational, ARS briefing. James Moss, Director of Housing Development, MRPDC.
Okay, glad to be here. How is everyone today? I'll talk to you a little about your ARS program, and I see some new faces, so I'm assuming that not everyone knows exactly what we're talking about. So the Acquire, Renovate, and Sell program, which is Grayson County's Acquire, Renovate, and Sell program, and I had Linda to provide you your program design just so you could look it over. And then I also provide you with the Department of Housing and Community Development's program design that yours is based off of and that funds this program. So what it allows is it allows this EDA to purchase undervalued property, market it to first-time home buyers, folks that make 80% AMI and below, which the 80% AMI is the majority of your population. You market those homes to those first-time home buyers for the first 60 days, and then after that, it's open to the others. But the ARS program, the Department of Housing and Community Development provides you with funding to help renovate the home or construct the home because they changed the previous years to meet, I guess, early on. So they provide $60,000 to go towards the reconstruction or the construction of these homes, right? The renovations, reconstructions. Of that 60,000, 53,500 goes directly towards the renovation or construction costs. The other funds are for related expenses, whether it's there's a little funding for some legal expenses and things that you would have upon purchase and resale. And then there's the $4,500. That's a rehab specialist that comes in and does the housing write-ups for you guys and contracts the construction work that accompanies that write-up, which that's provided to Mount Rogers Planning District off of the MOU, which I should have had copied and handed out to you today, but our MOU with the EDA. To date, the EDA has not purchased any homes. We report on it monthly, which Linda submits them for us once we have them ready, but you haven't really moved to do that. If you so choose, you can look at that. You also, as you do that, the folks, I would go about putting out public information campaign to make sure that your citizens know exactly what you're doing. Because you're opening up these homes to first-time home buyers and folks that 80% AMI and below who may be looking for homes in their price range. And you're also looking to revitalize the communities and areas in which you live. So you may be taking the worst house out of the best neighborhood. It's still undervalued house and fixing it up, right? And that 80%, just so everyone knows, anyone making 80% AMI, the sale price that is affordable to a person making 80% AMI is $311,000 for the Grayson County area. So we're not talking about $60,000 homes necessarily. Not that they in somewhere you might think about. I mean, we're talking about homes within a drastic price range. So as you acquire these homes, the folks who are looking to purchase those homes agree to take a housing counseling class to a HUD-approved housing counseling provider. And your program design, because of the way that your application was submitted, you're using Open Door Community as that provider. And I think in your design, their name then was Hope Incorporated. Those same services are also available at Rooftop of Virginia and can still be used even though they're not part of your program design unless you prohibit it. Also, Virginia Housing offers some of those too for some of the income eligible people who would be at the upper end that don't need housing or credit counseling. But while they're working with Open Door Community or Virginia Housing or Rooftop of Virginia, they're also eligible to work through their credit repair program, get them ready to buy these homes and purchase. their down payment assistance programs. So, and also if you'll look at this, down payment assistance programs, those that are looking to finance with Virginia Housing, which actually funds the DHCD, provides the fund to DHCD to provide to you, they automatically get down payment assistance at a small point, a percentage point, depending on which loan they're getting or where it's coming from. Whether it's them directly, I think Virginia Housing, their direct one is like 2.5%, which I know is not a lot of money, but it's 2.5% that comes off the top of the cost of that home. Some of them are 2, but there's also other programs. So as they're working with, let's say they're working with Rooftop, or we can ask directly to send them to the Department of Housing and Shirley Miles and have her place them with someone, but they can work through their VITA program. The VITA program provides them an opportunity it's a savings program, to buy into the program, take the housing counseling they have to have anyway, the credit counseling and things that come along with that. And for every dollar they put in, they match it by 10 up to $10,000 that can also go against the cost to purchase one of these homes. Now, we have a regional program that's exactly like the one you have here that right now I have 4 brand new homes that was constructed just to work in this program. And we use that $53,000 as part of the construction cost. But the ideal is to, again, Mount Rogers, we've worked into areas in the community that needed the work so that we could help revitalize that community and bring it around the same as we would do here with you. And by doing so, we put these houses on the market. We made them available. We made the programs available, and we make sure the folks who are working through to try to get in those programs, make sure that awareness is there and talk to the different areas in open sessions, much like the one today. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you have. It's hard for me to talk a lot about your program because it is your program, but I can't answer most of your questions. I'd hope to have Sam Hanks and Shirley Miles here today, but I will tell you that, like always, I am at fault a lot of times, and I gave them the wrong date, so they're not here. They said they would join virtually, but there wasn't enough time to get them on this virtual meeting. But they would just tell you the same thing, and then let you know that all those programs are available. And one other thing that I can tell you, that anyone looking to purchase your house and purchase it through Virginia Housing, as long as I have funds available, Mount Rogers Plan District Commission has a spark loan set aside that buys down the mortgage rate from Virginia Housing by 1 percentage point for those who wish to use it. So those first-time home buyers, and 1 percentage point over a 30-year mortgage. Now we're talking about some real gains. I apply for that every year. I seem to get it every year. And a lot of times it's not well used because, first of all, I don't promote not using local banks and lenders because they are in our communities. That's who we should use. But we should also be cognizant of what's available to us and take advantage of it if we can.
I don't want to speak for everybody on the EDA, but I feel like one of the barriers that we've had is identification of those properties for us to move on. And it seemed like at some point in time, there was somebody that was supposed to kind of present us the properties that would be of, interest to the EDA. Am I wrong in that? I can't remember.
Yeah, actually, you had an EDA member that was going to be assisting you in looking for properties, and we had committed to coming behind them and looking once we were, told what properties you were looking at and where they were. I mean, I can't honestly say the planning district is not out looking for homes for sale. First of all, we don't have the staff enough to do that.
So we would need to identify a handful
Yes.
and say, these may be ones we want to try, and then maybe run it by you guys to see if that would.
Yeah, we would be
apply.
happy to go out. I mean, because we're going to go out anyway. will be doing your rehab write-ups and the different things you need, or if you had open property, we would be the same way, providing the plans, the construction documents and all that was available and helping through that process.
Mr. Chairman, I might add that, all of the preliminary work, and some of you members know this, but all the preliminary work of getting this program set up, getting the board to approve it, and basically, we're ready to go. We're in the ARS program, and we just need somebody to be a spark plug. We've been in this thing now over a year, I guess, Jim, right?
Yes,
And so we just need somebody, some EDA, be a spark plug for, hey, go for these properties and doing your due diligence and bringing them back. And then once you identify properties, and any of you could do this, but once you identify these properties, then the work, there's helping hands to help. Standing right here in the MRPDC, through Jimmy and all, there's helping hands to help say, yeah, this is a good product, and you can go right on from that. But we've got to take that first step, which we've not done for a year, and find properties and then getting them back and saying, hey, well, let's work and going from there. So if the EDA in this new year could keep that in mind and identify some properties, I really think if we could get one through and be successful on it, it would open up eyes and probably cause a snowball effect.
I will tell you that we use because our original ARS program is very flexible, and we can partner with other localities and entities. We used it to help another EDA put in houses, and what that EDA was, they had an idea, and it was a great idea. They were going to go in and start acquiring and cleaning up derelict properties. And I kept being asked about certain things as they were going through that. And as they were, we got to looking for funding for such an activity. So I applied and was able to acquire 2 different $150,000 loans to deconstruct those derelict properties that their EDA acquired. Their EDA acquired them. Whether some of them were gifts, some of them were tax sales. And then we bought a portfolio of properties off of one gentleman who had a lot of unsafe and unfit homes. So with that deconstruction funds comes the requirement, because as you know, nothing comes for free. As good as it sounds, there was no repayment, it's all grant, but you had to put back more housing than you took away. Now, I only put housing back in areas that, in the homes that were deconstructed, were unfit, unsafe, and uninhabited. So I truly didn't take any away, but I still had to show we was putting them back. So I looked at other funding sources. I got a $1 million federal set aside to help put back some of these homes. I also got funding from the Mount Rogers Planned District's Housing Unit Development Trust Fund. I acquired ARS funds on 4 of the homes, and but we filed that money together, and I put in 11 brand new homes, 4 of which had ARS funds in, because I could only spend that $53,000 in their construction. But I just wanted to tell you this story because it gives you an idea of what you can and you can do. You can use this as part of a greater goal or a greater initiative. You could look at cleaning up your derelict areas and acquiring these things. It's just a matter of what funds you have available and what you're willing to commit. So those first properties that locality bought, the EDA was given a fair amount of money. I think it was $500,000 to help spur this program along. But after that, they had no money at all in any of these sites. I pulled all the money together through grants and loans and
So they got all these.
all these things, and I used that ARS as just one part of it. But by I was able to clean up 80% of the blight in that community, and I put in 11. Well, not really, no, nothing really, because even the funds I give them were CARES Act funds. So truly, there's no, and I fought the battle with too, because it looked like we were putting in homes, and I didn't go in and put the best homes in that. I mean, the worst. I did put homes in the worst communities that were of a level that would normally see in those communities. I wanted to be the best home on the street because it's the only place I could start. Because that's still a modest home in some of these communities. So if I can go in and be that best home, that gives me the opportunity to come in, and we pulled together some other finances and for that EDA, which actually the one incentive had to come from the locality itself, was we gave a 20% forgivable second mortgage, and they had to live in the home for 10 years. So 0 interest for that 10-year period, no payments on that at that 10-year period. So we brought the price of the house down, but we also made sure that community gets someone to live in there at a price they can afford and stay and work in that community. Because when I did the ROI on that community, what little bit of funds that they would have lost, which is truly nothing anyway, they would have recovered in a 3-year period. So there was no loss. It was never going to be a loss. And those homes are priced so that no one's really making money, but there's no loss to anyone. And there will be some profits because I pulled together enough funding to go along with it. But with these ARS funds, you do have to take the housing counseling. But I will tell you, Virginia Housing's own report, the folks who took housing counseling, they only had 10% that went in default on their notes. And out of all the folks at any income bracket that they have, that number was more like 25%. So it's just good practice.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm still struggling. What's the best way to find these houses?
Well, I mean, you guys all live in Grayson County and they know these. You either partner with a realtor, have them look, or you pull them out of your own communities, because you're not necessarily looking for a derelict home. It may be the home across the street over here somewhere that, just needs a little help to make it where it ought to be. And then at a price that you can get at a price that's under market rate. So it just has to be under market rate for the area in which it's in.
Question whether you can work with a realtor or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's a good idea to work with a realtor. When we had this discussion early on, you had a realtor on this EDA.
If you got a realtor, do you have to pay them? I mean, you'd have to work out.
Realtors won't work for free. Yeah, I tried to get one to do that. But yeah, we negotiated rates. We negotiated some rates and things like that. But I mean, the amount of work they put in is the same. And then they are restrained somewhat, especially when they sell the home, because that home is for the first 60 days. And what I usually do, and I would do for you, during that first 60 days, as soon as that home has renovations start, I usually have it put up on the website of wherever we're working, on that locality's website or whatever, that this home is available for first-time home buyers. That way I've met that criteria early on.
And
then it opens the doors.
Like let's say we bought a home, then how do you go about getting like the contractor? Is that?
We do that for you.
Y'all, you do all that.
And actually it's in your program design. It tells you exactly what we do.
Okay.
We utilize a list of pre-approved contractors too, but we put it out a lot of times depending on what it is. But the pre-approved contractors that's on that list is able to come and work on these houses without us I guess, sending it out to more folks than that one listed bunch, depending on the renovation, would highly, I guess, dictate which way we would go, you know. But yes, we would take care of that for you. I mean, that's what we agreed to do.
So, Mr. Chairman, we've been at this for a year now, and we've not, and I'm glad we're going over what we need to do again, because like I said earlier, really, y'all just need to identify a home or a house, whatever, in your community, and let's get started, because just like he said, hey, we'll do the rest. We're basically, they help take care of the rest. We just need to identify. They're not going to come in, as he said earlier too, and say, hey, here's the house you all need to buy, you know. So we got to do that. We got to get started. We got to take the first step. And I hope that we wouldn't go another calendar year and not have a project for this that we've got there. We just need to put the wheels in motion. And so I hope the authority will really consider, hey, between now and July, August, sometime or another, having your first project.
And how much under market value would you say it has to be?
Any amount, they don't specify. I learned a long time ago, if something's not specified, it is. You just meet the letter, so, and they don't, I've seen no real true checks and balances since I started. But we do look to see that if the average home in that neighborhood sold for a certain amount of time, or it was looking that way, that as long as we were below, that's what we looked at and did. It's never been questioned. And then that's one of the reasons I'd like to have had Ms. Miles here. She could answer, but I can tell you from experience, no one's ever looked at that. They do keep tabs on, you know, the money you spend and your request and where the housing is. And so if you found one, and let's say you found one, and before you, because the money's set aside for you already, right? It's set aside in a performance pool. And then you'll say, we found this house at this address, and even before you buy it, we can send it to them to let them know we're going to do this, and then that funding is available at that time.
I know I have a better understanding of it now than I did previously, so thank you.
You're very welcome, Robin. Sorry I didn't do a better job the first time, and I'm not sure I did any better this time, though.
It's probably just the time that's passed too. It's nice to have a refresher.
Well, and also, if you would like, at one of your other meetings, I can have someone from Virginia Housing and from DH. But for the most things is Virginia Housing provides the funds to DHC. And I will tell you, the planning district did as many ARS houses in the last year than anyone did in the state of Virginia. So generally, just like with the program changes that were put in place in this program, if we make a request that changes something programmatically, they generally pay attention and try to make that accommodation if at all possible. So
I think this is a great opportunity for the county, but the board as well. Probably is unfortunate. I know we tried to get one property, but environmental concerns and stuff, it didn't really work out for that one. But I think if we can come back in the next meeting or two and have a few properties in mind to at least maybe approach owners or come up with a plan, I think it's something we need to take advantage of. Because I mean, the money's out there, sitting out there, and if we don't take advantage of it, I think we're missing a good opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And my thought is would it be a conflict if we were to ask the county to say, give us a list of places that are, you know, delinquent on taxes or something, and maybe start there and kind of approach them to see if they're interested in selling, or look at those just as a get the ball rolling kind of stuff?
no, absolutely not. And in fact, which the PDC didn't write your application for the grant or for the funding opportunity. Open Door Community did. I just wrote your program design based off the application. But when that application went in, the properties that were listed were properties off of this tax roll. And so it's done all the time. And that's another reason I wanted to tell you the story I told you, is that the majority of those homes were either, a lot of them were gifted because they had those delinquent taxes to the point that they were going to be sold, or they were purchased, and a lot of them were tax sales. So, yeah, there's nothing to prohibit that. And just as general information, and it's something you already know, but just so that it fits into this context, those records, first of all, are public records. Anyone can get them.
Y'all go get them anytime you want them, around the
Yeah.
treasurer's office.
And the fact that anyone can get them pretty much opens that door. And the EDA does work independent of the locality. They are sanctioned by the locality. That's how you will form. So there is a disconnect anyway, even though you don't need it. And I'm just pointing that out. You know, it's all one and the same, and you're all working for the same good, but the disconnect's made just so you can have these type of business dealings and do these type of things.
Any more questions?
I have one more. Like, let's say there's a property that's got something's gotta be torn down anyway. Are you telling me that we could do that and build? Like if it's like, cause a lot of these are on the tax.
I took properties with derelict homes. I took 4 brand new homes now.
Did you take down?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so then you would take care of that
Yeah.
as well, okay.
Now, what you get into, and just like with these others, there's an X amount of dollars is all that they're gonna give you as a loan that's repaid after you sell this house. You don't give them back that $53,500 of that $60,000 until after you sell that house.
But
But
you can apply for a demolition grant or something too, they apply, right?
if you own it, I did it in one locality. I got $300,000, $150,000 in 2 different grants. I took down 29 homes. Like I said, I took out 8% of the derelict housing in that whole area. But, you know, we went ahead and made the move to make sure that purchase those properties, the EDA purchased those properties, they were their properties. And then by them having control, I was able to put in a strong application, and with housing going back, very good application. And it was done that way. And that deconstruction and stabilization grant, just so that the folks in here know, because EDAs is what I usually work with, EDAs and IDAs. That grant is available, not just, it wasn't really designed for single family housing. They make concessions to allow us to do single family housing. The max amount, of course, is that $150,000, but it's also designed to stabilize and to or deconstruct. Let's say it could be a building here on Main Street or an industrial building that would be used or marketed to turn into housing. So let's say you were going to do that and you had a building on Main Street that the EDA was going to purchase, but you were going to say do upper story housing and a business on the bottom to get it ready to market. You could purchase that as you had control and purchase that property. We start applying once you had control of the property. So that could just be, you could just be in the preliminary process and they give it to you. So you could have an option, but control. We would start applying and gain those funds. I did that for the 220 block of Main Street in Marion. The EDA bought several buildings in a row. One of them had been gutted by fire and damaged the others, another one, but the whole block pretty much was available. Acquired the whole block. I got stabilization funds for that block based off of the address, and then was able to put $200,000 to help improve the facade and stabilize the building and market it. That building was sold to a developer before we even finished the renovations. It'll become 22 housing units in that Main Street building and I think 3 businesses. and below. So it opens the doors for opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity there. It's just a matter of tapping into it. But, every opportunity, you always have to look at what comes with that opportunity and how it affects you and whether it's feasible for this area.
I have got one place in mind, and it needs to be tore down, it's already fell down. Do we have to put a house back?
Yeah. We got deconstruction money? Yes, sir. Either that or you would need to be able to have it marketed so housing would go back. But yes, they require housing to go back. You can't, if you're going to do that, not put houses on every one, you need to do multiples. You need to have a grouping so that you could take care of your derelict properties and then subsequently put back housing on the ones that make the best sense to start putting them back. Because just with that house, we're not going to get the funds for deconstruction on that one whole house. But with that house, if that's all we had to choose from, we would have to go back. Or say it was 6 or 8 lots or 10, we would go back with housing and we would be putting back more housing than was available before. Because that house is not occupiable. It is not truly a livable housing unit.
Okay, one more quick question. If you found the house and say we tear this one down, we put one back, and we bought the property, and then you have your grant money that will, up to $60,000, fix it back?
So that's $53,500 would go back towards the construction.
Then the sales price is what? Is it what we
It's
bought
just-
out in it, or is it the property?
It's you don't want to go over the affordable amount for someone in this area at 80% AMI. So that's that, and I'll look to make sure it hadn't changed, but the very last I looked at it in Grayson County was $311,000.
Okay, so just throwing out a figure, if you got $100,000 in this house, can you ask $150,000 for it if the profits come back?
Oh, yeah, this is what it does. That's exactly what it does. So the profits, and I should have went over that. I'm sorry I failed. Well, your profits come back to be reused in housing ventures. So 10% of that can be utilized, of a profit can be utilized in any way you see fit, whether it's staff needs or whatever that is. But the remainder is tracked separately, and it's used to promote housing. So it could be either more construction, or it could be anything. It could be a community outreach program. It could be all kinds of things. It just has to be housing related.
So we'd have to have candidates for these before we really step into any of these, know what we're doing.
Well, to get candidates, that's a two-sided sword. So the answer to that is yes and no. If you purchase a home and you start, you can start your advertisement and your campaign at the same time. If you get your candidates first, they're going to want to know where your houses are. So I've tried it both ways, and I can't tell you, sir, which is the very best way to go about it. I wish I could, Roger.
I think one of the big things you have to do at first is find a potential property, but then find out who owns it and are they willing to.
Yeah. And we had that in mind here, first of all, because the county had a derelict property that in Mitch's neighborhood. It was a manufactured home park that had been sitting empty for years, had a notice of violation from the health department, so the septic and all couldn't be used, and still sitting with the homes. And we were putting together a game plan for that property. Just happened that it didn't work out.
Have you ran into where you've approached people to buy their property, that they said, aha, I've got somebody on the hook, I
Yeah,
want
often,
to
especially
up
if
that
it's,
price up?
especially if it's local government, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, it happens, but then again, like I said, a lot of them could be your tax sales, could be just property in the neighborhood. If you use a realtor, they don't necessarily have to disclose that they're buying for the EDA or the county until such time that the deal is made. But it's not as much as you'd think. What you usually got was folks who had derelict properties that a local building department that's doing maintenance inspections was going on. They're all of a sudden calling, wanting to sell you the property, or thinking that that process was going on because you're wanting that property. So, but here, that type of thing is done by complaint only. So can't much imagine that happening that well here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knoll.
Very well. Thank you, guys.
All right, next on information is ag fund update. Lyndsie Young and Kevin Spurlin.
Do we need to review anything about it, or like the qualifications or anything, or is this anything?
Well, we've got,
I wasn't at that last meeting, so I'd appreciate a brief if you.
we've got a new member that's, needs to be updated. Thank you, Kevin.
Like that.
Okay, I think it was at the November meeting because the December meeting was canceled. That we already discussed, the EDA had voted to encumber $200,000 to go towards farm relief for our ag producers. Then they also decided to appoint a sub-ag committee to come up with an application and qualifications for this farm relief application. And the subcommittee consisted of Lyndsie Carrico with USDA FSA office, Nathan Osborne with NRCS, Tim Phipps with Soil and Water, EDA member Kenneth Belton, and then Kevin Spurlin with Cooperative Extension, myself, and then Steve Boyer as County Administration. So when that group met, they came up with the application with a deadline of December 31st. And in those requirements was a 20-acre minimum that must actively be farmed. They had to provide their Schedule F or also a rent or a statement or something if they were renting properties that they didn't own. An FSA number, which partway through we kind of said, get your Schedule F to us, because the FSA office was so busy. We had all these people calling them for their number because nobody has their number. So we kind of did away with that partway through. So I've got all the applications in my book bag if anybody needs to see them. A description of the damages, like an estimated value of the damages if they had it. And then their application or their property could be subject to review if someone from the FSA office, NRCS, or Cooperative Extension did not know who they were or had not ever been to their property. We didn't have any of those. Yeah, they pretty much knew who everybody was on that applied. The discussion, also their real estate tax tickets were required also, because the discussion that was held in order to get some dollars into our producers' hands as quick as possible is use the value that their open land value and the real estate taxes that they paid for that. And the math was Kevin's brainchild. I'm not going to take any credit for it, but basically at the time, I think he utilized $400,000. We were hoping we'd get $400,000, but right now all we know that we've got is $200,000. But he utilized the value of all the open land, and open land that was 20 plus acres, got it from the commissioner's office. Did a guesstimate of about 80% maybe would apply to this. Did the math with the $200,000 and came up with a certain percentage to use that money. And at the time, the percent was like 11 to 15%. And we kind of just went with 13% of the real estate taxes that these producers paid, they could possibly get back. But there was no decision from the EDA on what that percentage would be, because we did not know how many applicants that we would get. So that is one thing that you all will need to decide today. Am I missing anything?
So basically, the amount that the farmers will be awarded is a certain percentage on the amount of taxes they paid.
On the value of their taxes for the value of their open land, not building structures or improvements. It did not include any of that.
So if I paid 10,000 on the open land, I would get a certain percentage of that 10,000.
Yes, that was kind of what that committee recommended. The ag subcommittee is what they came up with.
Do you have a lot of activity with applications so far?
Well, the deadline was December 31st. So I wanted to explain the process. So now I'm going to go into that update. If are we all good with that? Okay. Okay. So we had a total of 79 applicants. Okay, and keep in mind that the USDA Ag Census says we've got about 600 farms. I guess my numbers are right. A lot of numbers floating around in my head. So we had 79 producers apply with a total, and y'all, I didn't type this up to give it to you, so if you want to write it down, you're welcome to. But we had a total of real estate taxes paid from these 79 applicants that equals $436,000, $436,479.68. So that was the total in real estate taxes of open land, not building structures improvement, that these 79 producers have paid to the county. So, good thing I love math, because I did a lot of it. If we utilize the original 13% back that we had discussed, and like I said, you guys did not vote on a percent, you've got to do that today. That would utilize $56,742.36 of that $200,000. I also did percentages all the way up into 35%. I can give you those numbers if you want, and I will here in a second. I will say, I would like to comment, if you want to use, and the Ag Committee has a recommendation to utilize part of this funding for this round and then how to utilize the rest of the funding. But if you choose to use all the $200,000 for this round of applicants, it will essentially be about 46% granted back to these applicants. The smallest side check to any one person or producer would be about $90. The largest check to any one producer will be a little over $15,000.
You think we're saturated with those applications? Meaning did we cut it off too soon? Or do you think that's pretty well where we should be?
When I sat down, and Kevin, you can have your input here also, but when I sat down with Lyndsie at the FSA office, there were several on her list that we didn't have, but we also had a few on our list of applicants that she did not have. And so I shared those with her so she could call them, because USDA can pay for a lot of the damages, but I have a general value of the damages that neither they nor NRCS or Sloan Water can touch. So, I mean, we went out knocking on doors, trying to get people to apply. And this is, what percentage did we come up with? Probably 11% of our producers applied to this. And I don't want to bring up use value, but a lot of the charts that we have with the counties that do land use value, the average percent of producers that apply to that is going to be around 9 to 15%. So I think the 11 to 13% that we got is probably going to be average. If we spent 2 and 3 months going knocking on doors, yeah, we're going to get a whole lot more, because it's, money in their hands. The whole purpose of this process was to get money to our producers as quickly as possible, because USDA, it's federal funds, they're not going to speed up the process for anybody. So we're trying to get dollars to these producers so they can start paying for some of these damages and get moving. And the value of the damages, Kevin's got more exact number, but the value of damages, I think we all discussed last time, was well over $60 million just in Grayson County. And of the counties that were affected, we had 40%, 30-some percent?
About 37%.
30% of all the ag producer damage in the counties that were affected, Grayson County had 30% of. So we were hit the hardest for Virginia.
Do you have an estimate on, because on the application, I think they had to list their approximate damages?
So
Sorry.
I knew you'd ask it, and I do have a spreadsheet, and I listed everybody that listed damages.
Okay.
I can try to add that up and give it to you. It'll take me a few minutes, but it's not going to be accurate because we've got 79 applicants and at least 30 of them didn't put anything.
Okay.
And probably a good half of the others was a guess.
Okay.
Several of them were calling me to ask, how did you come up with estimates? They didn't know how.
Yeah.
And, and so I would tell them kind of the process that I used to come up with our initial estimates. But I think part of the reason we thought about using the tax tickets is how do you verify the accuracy of all of their estimates, and who's going to do that work? It's just a lot cleaner to basically just use their tax tickets.
Why did some people choose not to apply? I know we had a little conversation. We thought some may not because they felt others needed more. Was that the primary reason?
It's a big reason. I had a lot of questions saying, well, what can this money go towards? Because I know USDA can put money towards this. So some of them probably saw or have talked with Lyndsie and knew that they'd get a lot of funding for the damages they have. So they chose not to do this because, again, they thought other people would need it more.
So we're concerned that if we give out too much of the money, there might be another kind of round that we could use for people that decide they want to.
Right now, there's, I can't remember exactly how many is on this list. But of the ones that she sent me, that the value of damages that she cannot cover, plus what I've seen on our applications that I know have, and when I say she can't cover, Kevin and I just talked about this before he came over here. It would be like feed bins that were damaged, troughs, hay rings, barns, barn roofs, doors, things of that nature. Bridges or roads that go into the farm. Any residential stuff, FEMA said, I don't even know what FEMA did, but they said if it was residential, they could help them. But if it was a road or a bridge into a farm and it was just farm access, they said no. FSA can't help with that either. So it would be stuff like that. But the number that I've got, and it's going to be well more than this, is at least $240,000 worth on the list of people that we've got. And she's still collecting quotes on information.
Yeah, and I feel like some of those things nobody can cover, but there'll be some of those things, even though federal dollars through USDA won't cover some things, like some barns, not all, but some would be covered under a farm insurance policy. So there's other ways that some of that would be covered, and we can look for ways to maybe help on the things that nobody's going to cover.
So is your recommendation?
I'm going to give you my
Okay.
recommendation. Let me correct the minutes. Not my recommendation, the recommendation of the Ag Subcommittee.
Sure.
That recommendation would be to do between 20 to 25%. So 20% would be $87,295.94. 25% would be $109,119.92. Do between those, anywhere between those two percentages, and then use the rest to go towards these damages. And I've already went and sat with Lyndsie for a couple hours. I'm sure her and Kevin have had it out a few times. But we'd be glad to go sit and work with her and get as many producers as we can for damages that no one else can cover. And like we're even with the insurance, and figure out a number here and come back on how to help them with the rest of the $100 and some $1,000 if you so choose.
There's a whole lot of damage out there that, if I understood Lyndsie Carrico, if a tree hit the fence, yeah, you can count it, but if it's just fell out in the pasture, you know, or whatever. I mean, it's still a mess, you gotta clean up, but no, we can't cover that. But it's storm damage.
So 79 applications, is that where we're topping things off here
For this
for
round.
this round? Okay.
It sounds like the goals pay about, if we have $200,000 available, distribute probably roughly half of that. And then that leaves half for another round when more people decide maybe I should apply.
Or it would mean, even if somebody got it in this first round, but let's say they only got $1,000 because of the way that their tax tickets worked. But they had $50,000 in damages to a bridge that they can't get help from anywhere else.
Yeah.
We could help those people,
Yes.
right? Doesn't mean that we can't help these people that's already got it.
Yes.
We can look at it on kind of an application basis, like anybody else comes to the EDA. It's just be specific to that pool of money to say, I do need $50,000
Yeah.
for whatever, a bridge that got washed out.
But it's already been a while, so it'd be nice to get some, but those people some money as soon as possible.
That was, yes, and that was, and I reiterate, that was the whole purpose of this first round. Was to get money in their pockets as quickly as possible.
Do we know anything? I know Mr. Boyer mentioned moving 200,000 from what the county got to the EDA. Do we have any idea where that might stand for us to do, to add to this?
I've not heard any more about that being done. Have you? No. I've not heard.
I would like to throw this in because I know there's been some funds that have come into the county specifically for this purpose. I hand delivered a check 2 days ago for $1,000 from a local business that they wanted specifically used for ag relief efforts. And I took it over to the treasurer's office. I don't know how much of that money is available.
I've tried to ask that too.
I'm not sure.
It would be good to know, Mitch, Linda, I don't know who we need to get with, but it would be good to know how much has been allocated through the Farm Relief Fund to ag relief, through
I
ag
would
relief.
assume the treasurer's office keeps a category on that, so.
I don't think that it's fair to,
We can find that out.
I don't think it's fair for the EDA to be making decisions not knowing what that number is out there that's allocated for this and not knowing where Steve's intentions were when he said that day. Because
Look for the Wells.
Yeah, that was gonna be, they were
I
giving
mean-
500, and he wanted to put 200 to the
Yeah.
EDA for us to add to,
I mean, I
to
think-
use for this.
I'm not saying that we can't decide on a percentage today. I think that we should do that, and I think we can say, you know, we wanna help with the remaining 100,000 that we've committed. We wanna help these one-off producers that can't get
Well,
help
maybe we
anywhere
can
else.
find out from the treasurer's office what money has come into ag recovery. And then also find out what his intentions
Yeah.
are for the, you know,
Can we ask for that report at the next meeting?
And I mean, if anything, you could even do another round of this. This was just to get, you know, as quickly as possible.
Could you say, I think you said 24% would be about 100,000?
23.
Yeah, if you did 23%,
23.
that'd be right about 100.
So if you did a certain, whatever, 23, or maybe look at, because there, if anything, there's gonna be more money coming in. But do that round and then
So let's,
find out what else is still coming in and then just make a.
And the other thing we didn't
budget for
know
that.
was, tax, like if they're delinquent on taxes, is because they're gonna have to cut, or whoever cuts, you know, checks to these producers. I don't know, you know, what the rule is for the EDA, or if you guys have to vote on that, or.
We can't help somebody who's delinquent on taxes, is that correct?
precedents has been set that if the county's stroking a check for a resident that is delinquent on their taxes, most of the time, what I've encountered, what I've heard about since is that money goes, they still get it, but it goes toward their taxes. they don't actually physically get it, they get it, but it goes toward their bill and tax
Yeah,
off.
the Ag Committee didn't know, the Ag Subcommittee didn't know, but their recommendation would be that, you know, they can't be delinquent on their taxes to receive the money, or, you know, if that's the process, they get the money, but it goes towards whatever they're delinquent on. But we didn't know what the rules were.
So we can vote on how we want to handle it. My opinion would be that it would go to pay their bill. If they're if they're, you know, I guess we're not
Yeah,
allowed to say that they're always delinquent, they're delinquent every year, but if they're struggling to pay because of hurricane relief, then this would
It
help.
should help.
But we're gonna give them 23% back, or whatever the number is.
So if, I'm gonna recap what I think your subcommittee is recommending. That we do an X%, sounds like we're talking 24%, which is gonna use 100,000 of the 200. Then the other 100,000, are you wanting to do another round of applications, or are you wanting us to hold that back to do one-on-one help maybe with a farmer?
We probably could do either way, because the FSA office has an entire spreadsheet of all of those producers and what they cannot help with, in addition to what I've got on these applications.
So we could target those
We
things
can target
first
them
and then open it up if, you know,
if you guys,
if we've got even more money left.
Okay.
if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Can we wait to make that decision until we hear back from how much more money we have from the county?
I think,
On the second
On the
part.
on the second
Oh,
part,
absolutely.
Not the
Yeah.
percentage.
Absolutely.
yeah, this percentage we'd like to know now so we can start.
But you're gonna cut checks now, and we're gonna hold back, or whoever's
Yeah.
gonna cut checks. We'll hold back the other 100,000 or whatever. You're not opening up applications again until we meet again and decide
Yeah,
what
'cause
money
you
we're
all-
gonna
yeah.
get and how we're gonna move forward
you-
with the rest.
yeah. And hopefully that, at that time also, it'll allow us to get a better idea on that damage value too.
Yeah.
That 240 plus.
And it would stay, as far as this sheet goes, it would stay encumbered,
Right,
but
Right.
it's just still reserved for whatever applications
Right,
come in
All right,
later.
we ready to make the motion? Yeah. All right, I'll do my best here. I'll make a motion that the EDA fund, the ag fund, relief applications up to 23% of the tax value, property value,
Property back.
Yeah,
real estate,
as relief.
as relief for funds to be, how do you say the part about making the taxes whole first?
If someone is delinquent on their taxes,
I'll be distributed.
then they don't receive the check, it goes to pay their taxes.
Pay the delinquent.
Pay the delinquent
And if
taxes.
there was any extra, then they could get it, but the first funds go to paying taxes.
Contingent on taxes being paid first.
Kenneth, I want to hear you repeat all of that.
I would like
That's fair.
Come on, Linda.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second to go 23%, which will mostly encumber 100,000 thereabouts. And then the other 100,000, we'll worry about that later. But in other words, we're voting right now on $100,000. Pretty close, correct?
Or 23%.
And then
23%.
23%.
Okay.
And we have to put in there that the money goes to paying taxes. and
Contingent on taxes being paid
paying first.
first. Just like getting loan, first loan is the taxes. After that, then is that
Virginia left, they'll get a check.
right?
Yeah.
That agree with everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a motion and a second. Do I hear, all in favor, aye? So aye, any opposed? Okay, you got all that?
Sorry.
Keep up, Linda, come on. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, all appreciate the.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work y'all put into it.
Okay. Now, next EDA member time, I have had none brought to me.
But the only thing, what you and I talked about, should I make Is that a proposal or just asking to
Well,
put
we'll
it on
just
the
give,
agenda?
we'll just give it put on the agenda.
Okay, we'll find the agenda.
For next February. And we'll-
I'm gonna put a presentation together for the next meeting.
Public comments.
I'm checking, Mr. Chairman. We got a lot of people here, so I better look. Nobody signed that.
Okay, anybody, even though didn't sign up, want to speak? Hearing none, look for a motion to go in executive session, discussing late acquisition or disposition of real property pursuant to 2.2-3701A3 of the Code of Virginia and involves a new business. Here, ask for a motion to close session.
So moved.
Here, a second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Also, we're going to close session. Thank you all.